With the new set, we have a ton of new comps, and Ionia Xayah is probably the most beginner-friendly one to play, and in this video, I'll teach you how to master this comp by covering everything you need to know about it. The build is relatively flexible, and here are the core units for the comp. We have Shen, Jhin, and Xayah to give us 3 Ionia, and Nilah to be our secondary carry. We also need to add in another Vanquisher to this board to get 4 active, which will be either Darius or Ashe, but most of the time, Darius is the 5th unit you add in to round out your core units. The remaining 3 units you add in depends on what you hit and what you need. The most common level 8 version is this. Here we add in 3 more Ionia units, and we have Xayah as the main carry, Nilah as the secondary carry, and Shen as our main tank. There are other variations like this board that also work depending on your items and what you get dropped, where we add in Ashe and Sejuani for Freljord, and Taric and Sion to give us even more frontline. There are more variations that also work, especially if we get some specific augments or emblems, and we'll get into that later in the video. Xayah is our main carry, so we prioritize making items for her first. She has 1 core item, and that is an AD item, which will be either Deathblade or Hurricane. This is to give her a great base of AD that we will scale up with crit items and the Vanquisher trait. The second item and third item want to be crit items. This is because with 4 Vanquishers, we will get a 100% crit chance with 2 crit items, and this will allow Xayah to one-shot backliners with her spell. The best ones are Last Whisper, Guardbreaker, Night Harvester, and QSS. You will never build JG or IE, as her spell can already crit through the Vanquisher trait. You can sometimes build Hodge if you need the healing, but you won't need that in every lobby. Triple crit items is not great, as we get diminishing returns once our crit chance goes over 100%, meaning we will get less value from that third crit item if we were to build it. After you made Xayah items, you want to make items for Nilah. She wants RFC, which is by far the best item on her. None of the other items even come close, so always prioritize that if you need a proper secondary carry in Nilah. Her other items want to be BT, Titans, Sterex, Edge of Night, Giant Slayer, or Night Harvester. If you have any more items after that, make tank items on Shen. He wants standard tank items like Stoneplate, Warmogs, Sunfire, Redemption, Dragon's Claw, Bramblevest, Protector's Vow, Crown Guard, and Adaptive Helm. If you get a spatula, you have a couple of great options. The best option is to make Ionia Spat and put it on Nilah. This allows you to drop Irelia and gives you a ton of other options in terms of what to play, which we'll cover in the late game section. If you can't make Ionia Spat, Vanquisher or Juggernaut Spat is also good, as you get to drop Darius for better units. With this comp, the game plan is to get to level 8 and also to itemize 3 different champions. The best legends to achieve this goal is Ornn, Ezreal, and Master Yi. Ornn gives you more items overall, which is great. Although none of his augments are fantastic, none of them are bad, so you will always have good options to choose from. Ezreal gives you more items as well, which is great, especially his 2-1 augment, which is great for this comp. Master Yi has good combat augments with pumping up, which is great as we can never have enough attack speed in this comp. The best portals for this comp are Nox Crea, House Lightshield, Unstable Rift, Battle Cafeteria, Yuumi Zoom Zone, Hole of the Nine, and Cardinal Arcology. And the best augments for this comp are Buried Treasures, Ionia Crest or Crown, Sentinel Spirit, Stolen Vitality, You Have My Sword, Scope Weapons, Vanquisher Heart or Crest, tons of stats, Healing Orbs, Gifts from the Fallen, Know Your Enemy, Red Buff, Pandora's Items, Social Distancing, and Pumping Up. I mentioned a lot of augments there, and the best ones out of those are Ionia Crest or Crown, Sentinel Spirit, Stolen Vitality, Scope Weapons, tons of stats, and Gifts from the Fallen. If all that info was a lot to take in, then check out the cheat sheet for this comp. It's available for patrons and YouTube members. Here is the Sorcerer Lux cheat sheet from last set, so you know what to expect for the Ionia Xayah cheat sheet that is available right now. The best early game boards for this comp is to have either Jhin or Samira as the early game carry. A great early game board is 3 Ionia with both of them in the early game. If not, use Ashe as your carry instead, or play a completely different frontline like Bastions. Once we have found our comp, we need to make items. Since we need a lot of crit items for this comp to work, we never want to slam TG, and we always want to slam items like Guardbreaker and Night Harvester, which are crit based and can also go on a ton of different carries. Other items like Last Whisper and AD items are also fine, as you can still pivot into other AD comps with those. From here, we want to win streak and push levels if possible, so we can safely reach level 8. And if you want to learn more about how to play the early game, then check out my guide, where I go in depth on that subject. After the Crux round, you should have more direction towards a comp, and the general requirements to play Xayah is to have at least one glove for a crit item on Xayah, as well as having at least one other Xayah item already made. You also need to have 3 Ionia and or 2 Vanquisher active, as we want to get specific augments for those traits on stage 3 too. If you are weak in the mid game, you want to wait until level 7 before you roll to stabilize. This is because we can stabilize off both Xayah and Nyla at level 7, but it will be hard to hit those at level 8. You will look to go level 7 on either stage 3-5 or 4-1. Which you choose depends on how much HP and gold you have. You will look to stabilize off Xayah and Nyla 1-star with some variation of this board. We only really need 3 Ionia and 2 Vanquisher for Xayah to work, so there is a lot we can do to change this board, so be flexible when rolling down. Once you get to stage 4-1, the late game begins. Here you will need to assess the situation to check if you can go for a fast 8 or if you have to roll at level 7. This board gets a large power spike at level 8 since we get space for 6 Ionia and 4 Vanquisher, but since we are not reliant on any legendaries with this comp, we don't get punished that hard for rolling at level 7. When rolling at level 7, it's very similar to rolling on stage 3-5. You want to end up with some variation of this board, but again, we can look out for a lot of different level 7 variations, like 4 Juggernauts or Freljords. Although some variations are preferred, the ideal scenario is to hit one of these and then save the remaining gold to go level 8 instead of spending it to dig for a different level 7 board. Once you've hit level 8, your final board will look something like this. This is likely the most consistent version, and also the easiest version to end up with if you are a newer player, but we can drop down to 3 Ionia and play a different frontline. Note that this is a bit more awkward though, as we need Scion for it to be good, and it's overall a lot more expensive. In terms of augments and emblems, if we get +1 Ionia, we almost always want to end up adding in Cassante, as he buffs our strongest tank with Bastion, and he can also deal with a ton of the stronger tanks that this comp struggles to deal with. Similarly, if we get +1 Vanquisher, we can add in Cassante for the same reasons, or we can add in Aatrox. Both are good options. With +1 Juggernaut, we don't have anything great to add in, so you'll usually just end up having a stronger Shen. General positioning with this comp looks like this. Here we have Xayah safe in the corner. We have Karma and Jhin towards the other side to bait out CC from Sion and Jarvan to keep Xayah safe. We have our strongest tanks with Set and Shen on the outskirts of our frontline to tank most of the damage. And Nyla wants to be positioned on the 2nd or 3rd row so that she doesn't waste time walking up to enemy targets. Now moving on to some in-depth examples. Against the first guy, the big threat is GP and Nyla. We have shifted more of our frontline towards the left side and also spread out more. This is because the enemy team deals a ton of splash damage with GP and MF, while also having spells like Jarvan and Nautilus that will get way more value if our team is clumped around them. We have Xayah and Nyla on the same side with less enemy threats, as we need to keep them alive to win rounds against the enemy team. Against the second guy, the big threat is Azir and Nyla. Once again, we have spread out our team to not get destroyed by the large AoE damage and CC for the same reasons mentioned earlier. Additionally, we have both Nyla and Xayah on the safer side of the board to be less susceptible to the AoE CC damage and CC. Against the third guy, the big threat is Qiyana. We have positioned Xayah on the left side as she will not be in range of most of the enemy rogue dashes. We have Karma to bait out most of the dashes, and Jhin to tank for Xayah if some of the rogues were to dash down to her. Nyla is positioned to take down the Qiyana to pop a rogue so we can deal with her ASAP. Besides that, we want to spread out our frontline enough so that none of the enemy team is able to sneak into our backline and get to Xayah right away. You can also check out this guide in a written format over on Tactor, and if you want to see more of my written guides over there, then check out my profile to see more of the other content I've created on that platform. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want cheat sheets for any of my comp guides, they're available for you to members and patrons, and the links to join those are down in the description. And if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 9,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.